Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go ahead and finish assembling our hydraulic arm here. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and insert our syringe housing. So let's go ahead and insert that into the current design and go ahead and put it in position. And I don't think we need to do an as-built joint. We'll just do a good old regular fashion rigid joint here. And let's go ahead and kind of move it up. There we go. And then let's see here. Let's go ahead and select OK. I'm going to go ahead and assemble it with a joint, and we're just going to select rigid joint. All right, and so we're good. Let's go ahead and select, let's see if you guys can see it here. It's kind of hard, but this circle right here is going to assemble to, well, that circle right there. Select OK. And now our syringe housing is in there, okay? Our last one, awesome. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and insert our claw mount here. So let's go ahead and insert that into current design. And once again, I'm going to move it up into position. Something like that should be good. And we're going to go ahead now and let's assemble this with a joint, with a rigid joint. Okay, and we know that this midpoint right here corresponds with that midpoint right there. Go ahead and select OK. Looks pretty good. All right, now let's go ahead and start building the actual claw portion or gripper portion here. So let's go ahead and first put our gears on. So what we're going to do is we're going to build the claw portion, and then we're going to put all the nuts and bolts on last. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our left gear on here. So I'm going to right click on the left gear. I'm going to click insert into current design. Okay, I'm going to move it over into place like we always do. Click OK. And we're going to do a Revolute joint. So go to Motion, select Revolute. Okay, and we're going to click there. And then we're going to click on the bottom side of this guy. Right there. And click OK. All right, and there we go. So we have our gear here in place. Looking pretty good. Okay, let's go do the right gear now. I'm going to right click, insert into current design. Move it out and into place again. All right, and let's repeat the same process we did before with a Revolute joint. Okay, we're going to click on that circle right there, and we know it corresponds with that circle right there. Okay, and now the next thing we want to do now is to go ahead and okay, I'm going to turn this guy and I'm going to make these parallel so they look something like this. But I'm also going to basically, let's see here, I'm going to move this so it looks like that. Basically, so our gear teeth here are intermeshed. Okay, and that looks good. So once you have both gears orientated properly like such, let's come on up to assemble, and we're going to go down to a motion link, and we're going to capture the position here, and we're going to select the two joints we want to motion. We want to click here and here. Okay, and then we want one of them to spin in the opposite direction, so minus 360. All right, and that looks good. I'm going to select OK. And now when I move one of them, the other one should move as well. Looks pretty good. All right. Next thing we want to do now is insert our claw connecting rod. Okay, so let's come and insert this one, and we need to do two of these. So we're going to come on up. Okay, I'm going to move it out a little bit. And Something like that. Let me make it maybe a little bit more in place, a little bit better. There we go. Select OK. And we want this circle here to go with this one over here. So let's go ahead and do that with a Revolute joint. Okay, so we're going to select there, and then we're going to select there and hit OK. Okay, so now we have this thing here that kind of goes back and forth, and we need one more. So let's come on over here to right click, insert into current design. Okay, I'm going to move it over here and up and into position. Okay, it looks okay. So I'm going to now come over to assemble joint and click there and click there and select OK. All right, so now we have these guys on, all right, and our gears here as well. All right, so now let's go ahead and insert our claw here, and we're going to need to insert two of these. And it's important you put this one into place correctly, all right, so you don't get any issues here. Move this guy up and something like that, and then move it over and up again. And I'm going to move it up a little higher here. So you want it in place something like that. All right, that looks good. Now let's go ahead and assemble this guy with some Revolute joints. We need two of them though. Okay, and we know this circle right here goes with that circle right there. Okay, and I'm going to move this guy over. And we may need to do an as-built joint, but let's see what we can do first here. So let's first try a normal Revolute joint. Okay, so make sure it's Revolute. All right, we're going to go with that position to that position. See if it works here. And if it worked, right, okay, oh, we're looking good. All right, so let's go ahead and repeat this process now for the other claw. Okay, so right click, insert into current design, move it over into position. And like I said earlier, it's important that you get this one situated and orientated properly. So let's move it out a little bit, something like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So you should hopefully have it in position in a place like that. And let's go add those two Revolute joints. Okay, so I'm going to click there, to there. Let's go do the other one here. There and there. Okay, and now we're looking good. And if we move our gears here, okay, our claws and our arm here should function correctly. Okay, now let's go ahead and insert our two gripper pieces here, or parts, okay, onto our claws. And we're just going to use a rigid joint for these. Okay, but still you always want to make sure you have it in place here. Okay, that looks pretty close. Maybe a little up higher like that. Okay, hit OK, and we're going to come over here and we're going to do a rigid joint now. And I know that this midpoint right here corresponds with that midpoint right there. Okay, now let's go ahead and put the other one on. Hit OK. go to Assemble Joint, okay, and I'm going to click there and do the same thing I did last time, and I know that midpoint goes like right there. Select OK. Okay, we're looking good. Now let's go ahead and get our syringe hooked up here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the visibility now for some of these joints, so it's just easier to see. And there's a lot of them, right? So, um, whoops. All right, that looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and start putting in our plunger part and hooking up to our gear here. Okay, so we got to find that one syringe plunger that we modified, and I believe it's right here. So let's go ahead and insert this guy now into current design. And once again, we want to make sure we get this thing orientated just right. So I'm going to flip it over. Okay. So it looks something like this. Maybe move it up a little bit more. See where it's at. Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe move it a little more over. Select OK. All right, I'm going to go to Assemble, and we're going to go to Joint, and we're going to use a slider joint this time. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now, go to Position, and let's just select kind of this middle section here, and that one right there. Select OK. Okay, so now we have this portion in here, right, that slides in and out. Okay, hopefully. All right, so looking good. Let's move on. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is insert our syringe connecting rod here, and we only need one of these. And we're going to hook it up to our right gear. So once again, let's make sure it's into position. Probably tired of hearing me say that, I know, but it is important. Okay, and let's move it up a little more. Because a lot of the times, if things aren't, as you probably figured out, if things aren't into position right, they might not assemble well. So that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to go to Assemble Joint, and we want a Revolute joint, and we're going to go ahead now and click on that circle. Okay. Actually, no, not that circle. Let's undo that one. Let's click on the one beneath it. A little tricky to get in there. Let's see here. Actually, you may not need to get in there because it's transparent. You may need to click right there. All right, and now right there. Select OK. Okay. Now we're going to do an as-built joint. Okay, because this thing should go in and out, and it does. Okay, but now it's important that we kind of like get this thing into position properly, or else your claw will not function appropriately. So here's what we want to do. We want to move these claws all the way into a position so that it's like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we want to push our, okay, let me unground this guy. Now we want to push this guy all the way back. Okay, so that when this is connected to our gear, okay, or it's kind of in a position like this. So when this pulls this back, when this pulls our gear back, it's going to move our arms outward, basically. Okay, so hopefully you got something like this. Now we got to get it into position. So what we needed to do now is to get this hole, these two holes aligned here. All right, so I'm going to move this thing back a little bit more. Maybe something like that. And now I'm going to ground this guy. Okay, and I'm going to move it so these holes kind of lined up. And that's pretty good. And now we want to go ahead and do an as-built joint, and we'll put a bolt through here later. So we'll go to Assemble, As-built joint. We're going to do this guy, and then we're going to select that circle right there and select OK. And if we did everything correctly, okay, let's see if it works. Oh, we got to unground this guy. And if we did everything correctly, okay, our syringe should go in and out as we open and close this thing, and that looks good. All right. All right, so now that that's done, the next thing you want to do is go through and put M3 10mm and 8mm bolts into all of our parts, and we also need to put them and secure them with nuts. Now, if you're actually physically making this, it's important to use lock nuts for the claw portion here or the arm portion here, all right? Because the lock nuts will work much, much better, all right? So follow along or feel free to try doing this on your own. It's up to you. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So let's start now by first securing our two gears here. So I'm going to come over here to my M3 by 10mm bolt, and I'm going to insert into current design. And as we always do, okay, we're going to put it into a good relative position here. Move it up. Okay, select OK. And all of our bolts are going to be done, at least most of them, with a rigid joint. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to click that circle to that circle and select OK. All right, let's do the same thing for the other gear. 10mm bolt, insert into current design. Select OK, come up to Assemble, Joint, make sure it says Rigid Joint, okay, and I'm going to click there, and then click there, select OK. Now let's go ahead and put two M3 nuts on the top there, so right click, insert into current design. And like I said earlier, if you're actually building this and you have all the laser cut pieces, you're going to want to use nylon lock nuts for this portion, the claw portion. Okay, in fact, actually, let's move them up here, rotate it 90 degrees here. Assemble joint. Click there. And oops, I didn't move it up enough, but that's okay. Click there. And then let's do that right there. Okay, let's go ahead and put the other nut now on this. This time I'm going to move it in a better position. Okay, that looks pretty good. Assemble joint. Where is that hole? There we go. Okay, looks good. All right, so now that we have our both of our gears held into place, let's go ahead and bolt our syringe into place. So let's come on over here to our M3 by 8mm bolt and insert this guy into current design. Okay, and I'm going to just rotate it up and move it over just a little bit. Okay, and we want to basically, let's go ahead and select OK and assemble this guy. Select that circle, and we want to come in. It's going to be a little tricky because you got to get underneath here, but you can do it. And then go right there. Hit OK. All right, and now we got to just go ahead and put an M3 nut on the top of that guy. So come over to our M3 nut, insert into current design, move it up and into place. And it looks pretty good. I'm going to move it down and over just a little more. That's pretty good. Come up to assemble and joint. Click there and click there. Okay, looks good. Okay, now we need to do our claw portion here and these holes over here. Okay, so let's come over here to our M3 by 10 millimeter bolt. Insert into current design. I'm trying to go as fast as I can because putting all these bolts on is something you can probably do, but just make sure you get them all. Don't forget any. Select OK. I'm going to go to assemble and joint, and I'm going to go ahead and select that guy. And put it in there. Select OK. Go ahead and put a net on top of that. Assemble and joint. Okay. And just click that circle. And that circle. Hit OK. Okay, so we're getting all these bolts on. Let's go ahead and do this one over here now. Come on over to 10 millimeter bolt, insert into current design. Assemble joint. Click there. And then there. And let's go put a M3 net on the top of that. Whoa. Moved it farther than I thought I did. Oop, it's way over there. But that's okay. All right, we got this one on now. We need to put one right here now through here to hold our gripper portion on. And we're going to use our M3 by 12 millimeter bolt here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put our net on top of that. Hopefully you're seeing a pattern here, so if you want, like I said, feel free to work ahead and okay, and the next one we're going to do is right here. And come back over to our 10 millimeter bolt, insert into current design. Where'd you go? There you are. All right, now let's put an M3 nut on the top of that. Okay, now we have this side done. The only thing we need to do now is to basically do this side. And like I said, feel free to stop the video and try doing this on your own. If not, feel free to also follow along. Okay, so we're over here at our 10 millimeter M3 bolt. Let's insert this guy into current design. And we'll come and do this back one here. Okay, and then we are going to put an M3 nut in here. Okay, and one thing I forgot to do earlier, and this is important, is we got to put a longer screw through here to hold that together. Okay, so let's do that. So let's come on over here and right click on, let's see here, our M3 by 35 millimeter bolt. Insert that guy into current design. Rotate it around. That looks pretty good. Let's go put an M3 nut on the other side there. Okay. And it's fine. There's no conflict there. As long as this guy can go in or out, that's the main thing, and it's not touching there. Okay. All right, so let's continue on now with our final 4 holes here that we need to assemble. So come back over to our 10 millimeter M3 bolt and insert into current design. All right, our final two, this one and that one, and we are done. Whoops, 10 millimeter bolt, insert into current design. Okay, M3 nut, insert into current design. And I'm trying to make this easy. In a real world, you could be using washers on here, and which would make your assemblies go a lot longer, but we're not using washers to save time. Okay. All right, and for our final hole here, okay, come on over and do this one. So we want, for this one, we want the 12 millimeter bolt, insert into current design. Okay, we're looking pretty good. The only thing we want to do now is just clean it up and take away all of these joints here. So to do that, just come on up to the joints and take off the eyeball, and boom, they all disappear. Now you can just see your beautifully assembled hydraulic arm here. All right, so let's go ahead now and minimize these. And the next thing I would do before you leave this video is just check to make sure everything still works. So, um, maybe give a pull here on your claw. But first I would ground this part. Okay, so come on down, ground it, and just see if it still functions right. Yep, we're looking good. Okay, I'm going to unground it. And then I'm going to come to my column here, ground this guy, and make sure this can still go up and down. And that looks good. All right, so hopefully everything checks out and everything works for you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.